Hello and welcome to the second installment of Mezzanine Talk. My name is Jean Marais. Some like to call me Jean Tunes, which is where we're at now. We're at Tunes Rehearsal and Recording Studio. And if you're listening to this and you've got a startup or any company and you want some ad space on the podcast, you can email us at info@tunestudio.co.za. So today we are speaking to a brilliant drummer. His name is Dillon Myburgh. He's been building a name for himself in the last 5 to 6 years, and he has a fascinating story just of how he grew up with music in church, in school. And the takeaway from this episode is that when things go a certain way and some doors gets closed, which might be closed forever, it opens other doors and it sends you in a total different direction. So enough of that. Let's get straight into the wonderful chat with Dillon Myburgh.
Lekker, dude.
So you say you came from Brackenfell?
From Brackenfell, yeah. I teach there I teach at a primary school there, so...
Okay. Do you do also any secondary schools?
No.
Just primary?
Just did a primary. I mean, I think to teach some older students.
Yes.
I have like 1 or 2 private older students, but all like most of the teaching's coming from like youngsters, super young.
The cool thing about the older students is that you actually get challenged. So it's pretty cool. Like I have some students where I really have to think like, what can I learn this cat today? He's maxing out my capacity a little bit, which is cool because for me that's kind of why I do it as well.
Yes.
Because teaching makes you a better musician. And obviously the old hat or the old saying of when you can explain something, you just understand it so much better and you can apply it so much better.
100%.
But so if you're coming from Brackenfell side, do you also stay there? Does your parents live there?
No, I stay in we moved to Burgundy State about a month ago, beginning of last month.
Cool. You and your wife?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it takes me about 25 minutes or so to get to work.
Okay, that's reasonable. Yeah.
And then from here, like, so it was quite cool coming straight from work to here. It was 25 minutes or so, and I was here.
Yeah, no, northern suburbs is close. And your parents, or like, let me put it this way: where did you grow up?
I grew up in Paro West.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your parents still there?
They moved to Oostersee now, but I mean it's right around the corner from Paro West.
I was about to ask, where's Oostersee? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's like a little bit nicer, but it's not far away at all. Yeah.
Okay.
I spent all my life there, and kind of like even when I got married, me and the wife we were living together, and then I would still just go to the parents' house and practice. I had full kit set up there.
Lekker.
Could make a massive noise.
Lekker.
Now it's e-kit.
So you're talking about Oostersee being a little bit nicer than Paro. Do you have like some Paro stories that you can share to us? How was it growing up in Paro?
Dude, my parents were quite strict. Like I wasn't allowed to walk to any sort of a shop, even if it was like right around the corner.
I mean, you grew up in the 2000s, so things changed a lot.
Exactly.
I grew up in the 90s.
Yes.
And things changed a lot. And also, I come from a little town called Worcester, which is kind of platteland, and you were like super close to the city. So I can imagine.
Yeah. So I mean, also like Paro at one stage, I don't know how many, but they had so many like drug houses there, like in that area, like a stupid amount of drug houses.
So you're saying it's quite easy for a high school kid to kind of fall into that trap. You quickly make the wrong friends, and then you do.
Exactly that, and also just like walking around there. I mean, I was like into skateboarding and like bicycle vibes when I was younger.
Okay, like BMX vibes.
Yeah, I mean, never took it serious because I was just kind of messing around in the backyard. Couldn't really do much, you know. So they brought me up with that, but it was great that they brought me up that way because it made me very like aware. I'm quite aware of where I am.
Where you am and where you're heading.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm not gonna lie, I missed the spot there. Like the neighbors was so used to the noise.
Yes.
I could make a racket there all the time.
That's awesome, because I also come from a background where our neighbors were so cool back in Worcester. They just said, like, just carry on with your practice, whatever. We had a full band room, which were very close to their house.
Okay.
And they were just so cool about it. They're like, no, they like the music. And that, I tell you, is, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if things would be the same.
Yeah.
Because it takes one nosy or just stuck-up neighbor can kill your whole, like, music, I won't say career, but your music development.
Exactly, yeah.
And talking about development, like, I'm pretty sure your musical spark, whatever you want to call it, came at a very young age.
Yeah.
So what was that spark?
Dude, I actually don't have any specific thing. Like, my dad, I remember at school, it's quite funny, like, at school we had to all make, like, some sort of a musical instrument. And I made a drum, okay, from like a coffee can type of thing.
Cool.
And so my dad and he would often say, "Yeah, you see, you had an interest there," but I was just lazy. It was like the easiest instrument to make. That's the only reason why. It wasn't a specific, reason for drums. I was just lazy.
I'm not gonna make a piano.
Exactly. just I mean, it seemed simple enough.
Yeah.
And then at primary school, they called all the kids together and they said, "Listen, we're going to start offering music at the school." And then I had kind of a thing where drums just sounded the coolest to play.
Yeah.
And I went home and I was like, I think I want to jam drums. But it wasn't, it could have just been a phase like the skateboarding was, or like things before that were.
So, and that coffee tin, did you actually kind of use that, or was it just an ornament?
I mean, it was leading up to the project. I think we had to not only make an instrument but kind of play something on it. So I would kind of play like a ding 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 ding. You only have one sound source, so I would have done that. But I mean, when that project was done, I think I obviously broke the coffee.
Yes.
It didn't take long before that happened.
Yes.
And then I never really got into it again. I can't remember what age that was. But like when I started taking lessons and I got my first kit was when I was 10.
Okay, all right. So
very young, I guess.
The reason why I'm asking is I also had a little kit made up of boxes.
There we go.
And like I took the plastic bins, like the little plastic bins that you get in the rooms and stuff. I'd turn them upside down. I would hit with my fist on it for a kick drum, and had a fax machine paper, like a paper roll. That plastic thing, or fax machines is super 80s. It's probably a bit before your time.
Yeah, definitely. I have no idea.
I had like a plastic pipe with that, which in my one hand as one drumstick, and then the one hand hitting the thing with a kick drum. That's how I learned, and also broke like a lot of Tupperware and stuff. So that's what I'm asking about that coffee tin, because that's sort of in a philosophical way. I like to, know more about that coffee tin. So it's cool that you actually got to use it. So, but now you're telling me, before I fast forward to being 10 years old and getting your first drum kit, you beat me by 2 years, by the way. I got my first kit when I was 12.
Okay.
Before I get to that, you mentioned your dad now and your parents in the house and stuff. Did your parents play?
My dad played very little, but he played some acoustic guitar.
So you're telling me you're not a pedigree musician? That's pretty crazy.
My dad played a little bit of guitar. Just like open chords, you could kind of strum through like some Creedence songs and that type of thing. Play like some worship songs,
campfire jams,
exactly that. And then I remember him showing me one or two chords, so I could play like just basic A, D, G type of vibe. But I could do like a super basic strumming. But I think I just never. Drums is kind of easy to make up things. Even if you don't have any knowledge, you can kind of just make anything up. On guitar, I guess you could, but it's just not going to sound as good.
Yes, there's a bit more freedom, and like also I'm thinking about a concept like creative license. A drummer, and which draws me to the instrument time and again, is that the drummer have this kind of upper hand on the creative license, where the piano player, the brass players, the guitarist, whatever, the bass guitarist, they need to play something specific. As a drummer, I feel you have a bit more room to experiment. But also, on the other hand, you have to be careful, because it's kind of easy as well for drums to sound unmusical.
Yes.
And that's which separates the good musicians from more like intermediate or lower level, not lower level, but more beginners level, is if you can play musically. Yeah. And that you can definitely do. So that's why I'm asking where and what I want to know now is who was your first mentor?
We stayed opposite a school, and then on the other side of the school I had a friend. His name was Brandon, and he used to jam at a church, and we made a connection somehow. I found out that he like could play a bit of drums, and I was like, cool, can he teach me something? And I remember at that stage I used to go with him to church, just to the rehearsals, and I would sit like right next to him while he would play,
observing.
Yeah, and the cool thing is like the church they were at, it's an RGS church in Goodwood. They
okay, so lots of music.
Yes, and also like quite a proper setup, you know, like nice. They had the glass cage around, but like a proper in-ear system was nice. like being around, and he played with a lot of energy, and at that age just seeing that much kind of passion and energy smash, I mean, he was going for it.
There's that spark I was looking for, because if you're so young, it makes this lasting impression when you seeing somebody just going for it, like elbows flying in the air, like just crazy, and you're just so in awe about what this instrument and this player can do. You're like, I want to do this. That's great.
No, 100%. Yeah. And it's funny because if I look back at it, he was trying to get me in there. So he would try to, like in the rehearsal, let me just jam through one song or whatever, which was obviously great of him. And I have a lot of gratitude towards that. But I can remember the rest of the band kind of like wanting that one song to just get done with as quick as possible. I just obviously wasn't on that level at that time. But the spark, and he was quite helpful. It was super important.
So what was the drumming wise, if we can like slightly nerd a bit, what was that moment, when that aha moment with you playing drums? Okay, so now you already played a couple of times, just to give you sort of an idea what I'm wanting out of this is like, I had a moment when I was young where a friend of mine showed me a straight eighth, just showed me like a straight 4/4. You know, kick on 1 and 3, C on 2 and 4, hi-hats doing eighth notes. So like that was an aha moment for me. I was like, oh, but this is actually how it works. You know, before that I kind of just messed around. I was like putting toms in kind of places where they're not supposed to be, and like I didn't have a beat and a backbeat, you know. Like what was that moment for you where you check like, okay, this is my starting point?
I see. I can remember one lesson I had with him. He taught me a beat. I can't remember the aha moment happening there because I was struggling so much just to get this basic. I mean, if I had to look at the beat now, I'd probably just laugh at it, but I can remember struggling with it, and but I think I can't actually remember the moment while playing. But I just remember me and this dude watching quite a lot of drum videos, and that moment of that's definitely what made me decide like this is what I'm gonna really put a lot of time into. But the aha moment you're talking about is almost like a moment where you almost like click something. I can't actually remember a specific moment like that.
Like you're like so immersed into it that
I think maybe the one that it can be is do you know band Skillet?
No.
It's like this kind of like Christian metal band, not like in your face Christian, just like just more on the Christian side. But they had a song called Monster, and I think that could have been the moment because he taught me how to play this song. And once I could play that song, that was like the first song, and I asked my parents to like record it for me, and I posted it. That could have been the moment, I think.
I check. So that's cool because you can actually have the playing moment and you can have the hearing moment. Some of my students sometimes tell me that they they feel they're now at a level where they can hear the drums and they can sort of hear what they're supposed to play, drawing from a guitar riff or a piano melody. And that makes me super happy, because when you develop your ear properly, that is your gateway, I would say. So you were kind of listening to that song, and like the picture, if I can put it that way, the all-encompassing picture of drums kind of clicked there in your ears. You're like, okay, this is what a kick drum sounds like. This is where the backbeat's supposed to be. You know, you get that impetus.
Yes. 100%, yeah.
So if I can go back to almost it was to Paro, your parents, what did they, when you were growing up, what did they do for a job?
My dad's an auto electrician, still is.
Okay.
So he owns a business called Mr. Battery, and my mother was like she used to work for herself doing like jewelry. She would buy and sell, and she would have a manufacturer that she would go to. And
so there's the artist kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was weird. Like I never had. My sister was always into dancing, which I guess is also somewhat on that side.
Yeah. Is your sister older or younger?
Older, 4 years older. Yeah.
Okay.
And then so yeah, they were doing that at that age. But like I know my dad's mom. I never met that grandmother of mine, but she was very musical. Okay. And then my mom's mom also played a bit of guitar.
That grandmother, did she sing? Did she play piano?
The one that I never had time meeting, I'm not actually sure what she played. I just know she was musical.
Right.
But my grandmother that I did know, which was on my mother's side, she used to play guitar, and she had quite a big personality. So I remember her playing quite a lot for me.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of music, but for my mom and my dad, creatively not too much, but they both have a massive love for music though.
Appreciation.
Yeah. Not a big spectrum of music though, but the music that they love, they really do love.
Well, that's cool, because you certainly do have a big spectrum of music.
100%.
It seems that you kind of grew up with gospel and jazz, and then obviously that allows you to move over into more like, I almost wanted to say Western popular type of genres like pop and rock and stuff like that. Because let's be honest, like being a jazz drummer, sort of going to the rock sort of field is way easier than the other way around.
But now, funny enough, I mean, it's 100% true. But my parents would not listen to anything that was on the jazz side. Nothing.
And like something Latin, something gospel.
Nothing.
Okay, so what did they listen to?
I mean, they were listening to like me and my dad would listen to like AC/DC, Guns N' Roses together.
Okay, so you had that rock,
had the rock
backbone.
Yeah. Definitely had the rock.
Well, that's where your what's the word I'm looking for? It's where your onslaught comes from, because even though you're a jazz drummer, you play pretty solid and loud.
Yeah.
Which I immediately it struck me that you've got the jazzy side, but you also got that like solid, like hitting the drums foundation. That's cool, man. Cool, so that comes from that AC/DC.
Yeah, dude. To be honest, like I'm finding this interesting. Like that it sounds almost like you're saying I'm a more of a jazz drummer that you impressed that I can play the rock stuff, which I do kind of look at myself also as, but the jazz thing has been way more recent than the rock thing.
Okay. All right.
So basically, me and my dad would listen to like AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, but I wasn't listening to like Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple. That was kind of as far as the rock went. Was AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, not much more than that. And then it would be like Creedence, Boney M. My mother would listen to a lot of Bee Gees, Modern Talking.
That's a solid foundation.
Bad Boys Blue, that type of vibe. And then a lot of Afrikaans in the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because my dad's Afrikaans.
Yes. And your mom's English.
My mom is English,
okay.
Yeah. So a lot of Afrikaans, and then also my wife's Afrikaans. We've been together since we were 14.
Wow.
So
there's not many romance stories like that in modern days.
No, definitely not.
Wow.
It's definitely something I hold on to.
Crazy.
And her parents both her parents are Afrikaans. So I was around a lot of Afrikaans music.
Yes.
But drumming wise, I always I used to love the rock guys, but I kind of always the things I was working on, practicing, and the inspiration I was getting were from drummers, not necessarily just rock drummers. And that's why my playing, like if you just listen to me and you're not maybe hearing me live and you hear that I do have my powers. My power isn't like obnoxious.
No, definitely not.
And
you've
it's
got
like
good balance.
Yeah, I have to really try to hit super hard, or the show has to be like extra epic for me to really
to
bash,
climb in there.
But all my gigs for the longest time have been rock gigs, cover gigs.
Okay. But I see you also do play quite a bit of jazz. I was super like, what's the word I'm looking for? I was like proud to see that you played with Ramon.
Yeah.
That's insane, man.
Yeah, I mean that connection's made from the band. The guy that I'm playing for is Aldrich Schilder. He's an upright bass player and a fretless bass player, and he, me and him kind of stay the same. And then the other musos will change.
Okay, is that for his quartet?
That's for his, yeah.
Okay.
That's for so I kind of, if I can't make it, they'll get. I don't even know, a drummer called Pascal will sometimes play. No. Pascal Haas. I might be butchering the surname, but so there are other drummers. He's played with so many different people, but like it's normally when I'm playing, it's always me and him, and then there'll be a different pianist or whatever we'll play with. But look, I'm not gonna lie, I do like the idea that like the jazz comes across to you first, because I am trying to push the jazz thing a bit more. But coming from a background where I wasn't brought up with that music, and also not playing it a lot, all my friends aren't really into it like I am. So I can't really get together with buds and play some jazz standards. You know what I mean? It's like they're either in the pop scene or in the rock scene.
Because even me, like jazz came much later for me. I started probably here around 2016, 2017. Yes. I really started listening to jazz and appreciating it and trying to slowly but surely incorporate very basic jazz concepts into my playing and stuff.
Yes.
But that was much later. Like, I'm born and bred a rock kid. That's what I played in high school bands. That's what I played my whole life. Listened to a lot of reggae in between in varsity, and that was so cool for me to eventually play in a reggae band. I was like, finally I can get to translate what my ears have been hearing for so many years. But
are you still doing some reggae stuff?
It's a band called Snafu. We play crossovers and adaptations and even some original stuff.
Nice, man.
But getting back to so there was that guy Brandon, and then what happened after that? Like, I want to talk now, like, around 12, 13, 14, 15. I want to progress through school. Like, when did you start playing with your first band?
I would say around the 13 mark. There was this place in Monaghan called London Town Pub.
Yeah.
I don't know if it rings a bell, maybe.
Not really.
It's like this bar that like literally a big red bus painted on it.
Cool.
They still have one, but like just smaller venues now. But I would play there every Sunday with some like very decent musos. Like, considering that I was so young, also getting to play with the older guys, it was great. I would play there every Sunday, and we'd do like, standard brick in the wall, Mustang Sally, that type of rep. And as I say, every Sunday, so that was cool at that age to have a regular.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'd get paid.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, I get paid a bit of bucks, so it was great.
Awesome. So you actually did like your first professional gig even before you reached high school. That's pretty crazy.
And then from there I had I was in a Cliff Richard and the Shadows tribute band. I don't even know Cliff Richard. Okay, so
cool. The Shadows is like some serious guitaring.
Yeah. Dude, we had this guy called Ivan Norman. He used to just nail the Shadow stuff. Everyone in the band would nail their parts.
Shit.
But I mean, that sound, like Ivan would just absolutely nail it. So, and obviously the Shadows is cool because there's quite a lot of different vibes in it. It's not just one thing. There's some
different
like
grooves.
There's some Latin grooves in it. And there's some swing stuff or like fast shuffly stuff. So yeah, I think that every Sunday gig was like the first type of thing.
So would you say that sort of like gave you diversity?
Yes. I would say, I mean, to really be the gospel guys will speak about it a lot, I guess, when, I've never played in like a real gospel setting. I've played in a worship band.
Yes.
But like, if we're talking about gospel,
yeah,
it's a different ball game.
Yes.
But I think those type of like a style like the Shadows that has different elements in it, it's still just an element, you know what I mean? You're not really...
No.
To play a Latin groove doesn't... You fall from a Latin...
It's different.
Yeah, you know?
It's the same thing where like... I'm struggling to find an example now, but let's say like a rock band is doing a little Latin groove.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like, you'll not have the left foot claves and stuff like that in there. It's going to be more rock.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing like we were talking about reggae now. It's the same thing if a rock drummer introduces a reggae groove into a rock song.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the roots rock reggae.
Exactly.
The real deal.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's what makes music so beautiful, is those different artists with different perspectives, different backgrounds, different takes on you. I mean, me and you can play the exact same groove.
Yeah.
It's not going to sound the same.
Exactly, yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Even though we might be reading it, we might be playing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same.
Yeah. There's definitely beauty in that, 100%.
And then moving through high school, like did you continue with lessons?
Yeah. So that when I told you about like the school offering lessons,
Yes.
I took lessons at the primary school. At that primary school I had quite a lot of drum teachers. I probably had about 3. There were probably 3 that cycled through.
That's pretty awesome as well, because you had multiple angles.
Exactly.
That's so cool. Who are these cats?
Man, I can't. I know the one. Jeez, it's actually bad that I can't now remember. There was I think the first guy's name was Alan.
Okay.
But I can't. I like that. Just.
And what were they into? Were they?
They were at that stage. They would teach me basic music theory, like note values.
Right.
Like just basic to get understanding of that.
Yeah.
And then they would just kind of show me like just techniques, like how to play a buzz roll, how to play like a normal groove. But to be completely honest, I can't remember too much from. I can't remember gathering too many. Too much knowledge at that age, but it could just be that I was young. I wasn't really focused.
Well,
I
mean, that's what I'm talking about, and that's what I could immediately hear in your playing, is that you got a very solid foundation that you build up from a very young age. You were introduced to theory at a young age.
Yeah.
You were immersed, like you mentioned now, with your Sunday gig. Like, honestly, man, I've seen and heard a lot of drummers playing in this country, and not to blow smoke up your ass, but like you don't play so well and so diverse as you play by the age of what, 24?
Yeah. Cool,
it's
man.
pretty insane.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
When I heard that, I was like, geez, this guy, he must be in his early 30s, but he's not. So super impressed, and it definitely goes to show, like you saying, you can't really relay much of that. It's like, it's one of those things where, did you sit next to the fire or did you sit far from the fire? You were next to that fire when you were younger, like you were immersed in it.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what's great. And then high school, like friends and stuff, like did you jam with friends, or were you a loner? What was your vibe?
I was so the music at the school wasn't necessarily the best for me. I was quite heavy into my rugby at school.
Cool.
Like in high school, I got in there. I was like,
what position?
I played tight head prop.
Okay.
Yeah. I played it all the way through. I definitely won't consider myself a good rugby player. But I did well in primary school. I made under 13 Western Province.
Ha.
Then
wow.
But look, like when I say that very lightly, just because I did great that year, and it helped me when I went to high school. People knew that I made Western Province. Then they
gave you some street cred.
Yes, so it allowed me to be captain throughout from grade From grade 8 to grade 10, I was captain. Grade 11, I played first team. I was vice captain. Okay, they kept me at prop because that's what I made VP at. But when I made VP being 13, I was heavy. I did not pick up weight as the years went on. I picked up maybe 2 or 3 kgs.
Crazy.
So I was like, I weighed 8. I remember I weighed 80 when I played for under 13, and I was like one of the heaviest in the team. Yeah, proper.
What the hell?
And then when I played matric in grade 11, I was 84.
That is insane.
And then obviously
in 4 years you didn't really
exactly.
The
And then the guys that I was playing against, you know, they were like 100 or whatever. And then they would never really move me to. I wanted to always play like 6, 7 or 8, like a loose forward.
But you mean like that's the golden thread, and I want to. Sorry to interrupt you, but I want to kind of tie that into drumming. I was waiting for that, and I'm glad that it came up naturally. That's the excellence, that golden thread. You've got a bit of an excelling personality going there.
I mean, I think it's cool that it comes across that way, but I also, with that being said, like I'm not good at a lot of things. I don't have knowledge about a lot of things. I'm not. I literally just dive into, like, drums is literally all I do. It's
yes,
like
I was just about to say, you've spent so much time on that, and that's cool. Like, why? What do you want more?
No, exactly. I don't. That's the thing. So with the rugby thing at school was the only other thing that I really liked a lot. At that stage, just as much as drums, I would say. But
so not really in high school. You didn't further the skating or the BMX.
No.
None other like extracurricular activities.
Nothing. But the thing is, at school, I never had any buds that were really into music like I was.
Right.
But I had a lot of, like, my whole rugby team was super into rugby.
I check. So that was your friend zone.
Yes.
Kind of, was the
you know, at school we would speak about the games about to come up the weekend, and like. So I would geek out way more about rugby, and I wouldn't really have the same energy with music.
Yes.
And because I was captain, I would miss a lot of, like, jazz band and orchestra practice because I would have to be needed at.
Okay.
And that would sometimes let me and the music teacher we would bump heads a little bit.
Do you regret that?
I do regret not giving a bit more with my music, but I don't regret that phase because now it's just music. Yes. I don't even watch rugby on the weekends.
Yes,
it's like no rugby at all. So I'm glad that I had that time. It was like the one thing I enjoyed about high school.
Super. That's the balance. Because maybe if you did a lot of music in school, you'd have been kind of like quote unquote tone deaf.
Yes.
You know. Yeah. When not figuratively tone deaf, not literally.
Yeah.
It's kind of like see it as a hangover from something.
I hear you.
And then, like, high school, did you continue playing in church? What was your sort of main gig? You mentioned that Sunday gig when you were 13. Like, what was your gigs in high school? So
I still had that Sunday gig. That Sunday gig was going strong for, I can't remember how long, but it was quite a constant thing for a while.
Nice.
And then, I took lessons at Partners N1 with Emil Terhoven.
I don't know him.
And that was proper. That was me. Like, he would teach me to play like some alto bridge drum parts, break down some like Animals as Leaders part. I couldn't always learn the whole song, but I could like learn parts of it. And that was the biggest, like, if we're talking about like that was my moment to geek out.
You were exposed to prog metal, like Animals as Leaders. Yes. That is insane. I wish I had that.
Dude, my three biggest kind of moments in my music was Brandon that started it.
Yes.
And then afterwards, when I started doing lessons in high school with this guy, do you know Bill that used to run Partners N1?
Yes.
He passed away not too long ago.
Yes,
he was quite important because he came across as quite a strict guy, you know, like you shouldn't bother him all the time. But he was such a cool guy. He was like, he would always give me like modern drummer magazines, and like he gave me like a signed kind of whatever you call that little ticket that hangs around your neck if you had a show, whatever, like signed by Virgil. He would give me stuff like that. It was so cool. And he introduced me to Dream Theater.
Nice.
Yeah, and like Mike Portnoy.
I was about to ask which Dream Theater drummer phase was it? Was it Mike Portnoy?
It was Portnoy, yeah.
Nice.
To be honest with you, I actually don't know if he introduced me to them. I think it was just at that time that I met Bill and I got into the Bothness thing and took lessons with Emil that Mike Portnoy came up. So it was Brandon was the first biggest thing, and then Mike Portnoy was massive for me.
Yes.
Like I had his DVDs and he had the big kits, and like I didn't understand what he was playing, all the odd stuff he was playing. I just knew that it was sick because it was like, oh, this is difficult. It must be cool. That type of thing.
Time signature 7/4.
Exactly.
Whatever,
Yeah.
5/4.
And it's interesting because the guys I'm watching now have taken it to such higher lengths, but it's like at that stage I was just like, this is the coolest thing. Double kick.
Yeah.
He had like these massive kits and like. His drum parts are iconic.
Yep.
So that was definitely a moment.
So what you're trying to say is not many other gigs in high school besides that sort of residency.
No, it was that, and then obviously the Cliff Richard Shadows thing.
Yes,
that was going underneath as well.
But you did mention that you had a kit set up at your parents' place,
yes,
and you were pretty much practicing the weekends away kind of thing.
Yes, let me just think. I mean, I don't think grade 8 or 9 I was doing too much gig-wise. But then I do remember coming home from school and having rehearsals. I had I think at that stage I maybe started getting the band that I played in on the Sunday. I made a few connections with those guys. Those guys would need me for some other things. But then I was doing a lot of tribute stuff.
So with who was that now? What kind of connections came out of there?
So for example, the gig that I had on the Sunday, the keyboard player is the guy that got me into the Shadows thing.
Yes.
And then from the Shadow guys would get me. They wouldn't necessarily get me into bands of their own, but the crowd that I was being seen with, we would play the bowling club, the Edgemere Bowling Club.
Yes.
Like I would play there quite a lot, and I would make some sort of a connection there and have regular gigs. I can't think. It's interesting now, like to have to think this in detail about it, because I just remember having a lot of shadow practices, but after school is where most of the work came. I didn't finish my final year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that, and not many people as successful as you at a young age can say that. So why didn't you finish your last year?
So that's why you kind of hear when I talk about the rugby. Yes. I talk about grade 11 playing first team, because there wasn't a proper year to be in the first team.
Yes, there wasn't a matric.
Yeah, that was the only thing I regret about not doing is the final year of rugby. My parents were extremely, extremely supportive. They, like musically, I wasn't brought up with as much music as I think it would have been cool to be brought up with, but like the amount of support was crazy. Like lessons, I would have all my lessons weekly. My dad would support me a lot with the rugby also. My mom a lot with the drums, but both of them, with both. And then I midway through grade 11, I just had like a moment. I was like, okay, like why can't I not finish school if I can be in a band and play bar gigs and earn more or less like 1,000 rand a gig and have 2 or 3 gigs a week, which is difficult, but I was like,
it's doable.
Yeah, like why can this not be a thing? And so I told my parents. My dad was like, no ways. Like for him, it wasn't even an option that I could leave school.
Yeah.
My mom also. I mean, it was a definite no, and I just didn't stop. I just said, "Come on, guys, please." And I kind of I tried my best. I said, "Listen here, if I leave school, I'll take my time serious. I'll practice during the day. I'll like make sure I'll show you guys." And then after like a lot of back and forth. When I tell people this, they're like, your parents must be cool. They just let you leave school. I was like, no, it
didn't come easy. I had to work for it.
I had to really work for it, yeah. And then initially I wanted to leave at that moment. And they were like, no, you have to, like this was like,
finish grade 11.
I have to at least finish grade 11. And then when I was done, I would come home every day. My kit would be set up there. I wouldn't be practicing I wouldn't be practicing 8-9 hours. Like like if I think back of it, I wish I put that much time in. I did put a lot of time in, but not 8. It wasn't like 8-9 hours. It was probably like, let's say, 4 to 5 hours a day, which is still
still a ton.
I'm still happy with that.
Not many people that can say that. So there you go, people that are listening.
Yeah,
that's how you do it. Put 4 or 5 hours a day.
And then what happened is straight like that very first when that year I turned 18, I met a guy called Brandon Oberholzer.
Another
different Brandon, yeah. Brandon Oberholzer. And then he got me together in the band. There was a guy called Justin Hoskin. I don't know if you...
Yes, he passed away also 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago.
3 years, yeah.
I met them at like the perfect time. Like I had to prove a point now, show that I can make it. And I met them at that moment. It was perfect because, Justin was amazing. And we would... then play bands. Justin obviously has like this blues rock type of rough voice, and he can play the hell out of a guitar.
So you guys played together a lot?
Yes.
Okay.
We didn't have that much time together, but we played quite a bit in that time. Yes. And then Brandon would do a lot of the country, like bigger voice type of thing. Yes. So we could cover quite a lot of stuff, and we used to get booked about twice a week. Exactly like. We would play like Speak Easy.
Right.
We would do like the Brauhaus vibes, and we do Palms.
Nice.
Corner Rock Bar.
Yeah.
Like, between those, and then obviously you get booked for private functions and a wedding or whatever you get booked for.
Yeah.
And we would make the connections. You can open up for some nice bands or whatever. And then I was like super happy at the time. I was like, geez, this is exactly what I said is going to happen. I could practice every day, and I would have 2 gigs at least a week. Speak Easy would get us there every second week, but sometimes like every week almost.
Yeah, so like roughly between 2 or 4 times a month. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
You've already got 1 gig down for the week, and now you're kind of progressing to the others.
Exactly.
Getting some privates in, people check you at the bar, wanting you to play for a wedding or whatever. Yeah.
So for me, like in that year, I was averaging 2 gigs a week, so I would be making like 8K.
That's not bad for a young person.
You understand what I mean? So and that was the moment I realized, a year or so before that, where I was like, why can't this be a thing?
So this was in grade 11 already.
This was in grade 11.
Ha.
Well, this was in grade. This was in grade 12. Where I would have been in grade 12.
Would have been in grade 12. Yes. So that's interesting because I listened to. I used to listen when he still had the podcast, Willem Welsyn Wat, and he had Dan Patlansky on. And Dan Patlansky also didn't finish school. Well, he did, but what he did was his parents took him out of mainstream and let him finish matric in a music school. So, and that's long ago. That was like, I think, early 2000s when he matriculated. So I didn't even know that was possible, but he was in Joburg. So obviously, Joburg infrastructure, whatever, it's a bigger city. So.
Yeah.
But and the point I'm trying to make is that I think you did the right thing to not finish matric, because you had so much more opportunity in that grade 12 or matric year to rehearse and to play on your own, to rehearse with bands, to make connections, because you've got nothing holding you down. You don't have the school mentality. You don't feel like a kid anymore. You feel like a grown now because you're earning money and you're building confidence. You know? So I think that was maybe one of my answers why you have progressed and came such a long way at such an early age. That's really cool, man. And now we're going on to after school vibes, like first year out of school, varsity, college. Did you go to study? What did you do?
Nothing.
You just carried on playing?
I just carried on practicing. I went through all my grades, all my rock school grades.
Yes.
So I did my grade 8 in grade 11.
Okay.
And then I got that. So like I have that certificate or whatever, but I think it's great to do that type of thing. But it goes that far. And then it kind of, like most of my growth came that year. That's why exactly what you're saying. That year was probably the most important year. Because I I had a point to prove, and I probably put the most time in that year.
Yeah.
And then
you wanted it, so
I had a point to prove. I was like, let's
show it.
Exactly, yeah. And then after that, I didn't go study further, and then from there it was literally just thing after thing. You know, the band that I started then would then branch out into. I'd meet other guys, and then it was just a hell of a lot of tribute shows that I actually did. I did like a Bruce Springsteen tribute show.
This is not barnyard stuff.
Yeah, that type of vibe. But look, the barnyard at that time would have been cool also to do.
But that came a bit later for you.
I've never done the barnyard thing.
You haven't?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I've played some shows at the barnyard, but like having one show at the barnyard.
Yes, I check what you mean.
Yeah, and I've played shows with like Duck who runs the stuff, but never actually done the barnyard.
Oh. So, and then kind of maybe skipping some years, but this is also an important point for me. Like you obviously you came from your teaching job now. How long have you been teaching?
It's about only a year now.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's also interesting is that you started teaching later.
Yeah.
You were gigging flat out, full on, just making money from gigs, surviving.
Yeah.
And then you started teaching. So why did you start teaching?
So a bit before yoga, I was like, okay, let me start teaching privately. And I wanted to build up about 10 students. I was like, if I can have 10 constant students, I'll be very happy. And then I got an opportunity. Someone, the drum educator, he was no longer teaching at the school, and someone phoned me, and I could jump straight from my 4 or 5 private students into teaching 50 students at the school.
Jeez, is that how many you're teaching now?
Yeah, I have about 54 or so at the school. Yeah.
And do you teach groups? Or?
I teach a bit of both. Some groups of 3 at most, and then some groups of 2, and then individual.
Crazy.
Yeah. So to be completely honest with you, I don't think when I wanted to get into teaching, I was thinking of doing it at that sort of
level. That's quite intense.
It's intense, yeah. But the opportunity was great. You know, I was like, okay, let's go big or go home now. I have to teach. I have to quickly learn how to teach youngsters, and also I had to offer up a lot of time. I was so used to having all that time during the day.
Yes, I was about to ask, do you feel like that is impacting your session career?
Not too much. My the bands I'm in are cool with it. You know, they work around my schedule. It was just funny because before I got the teaching job, I got into a nice space where all the bands I was playing with, they were all doing it full time. You could have
you're not working with working musicians anymore.
Exactly. So rehearsals were easy to book.
Yes.
You know, if the band wanted to go on a little tour or whatever, we could come home whatever time on a Monday.
Now you're the one working.
Exactly. Yeah. So and then I got the teaching job, but luckily I'm not occupied too much. I start Monday to Thursday 7:30.
I mean, you're here now, and this is a Thursday afternoon, so it's pretty awesome. You're not tied down Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
No. I can get out Monday to Wednesday about 2 o'clock. Thursday's an early day.
Yeah, that's.
But it's back to back. It's those 50 students are like one after the other.
You got to get your sleep in for that.
Yeah,
it'll be fresh.
So, but the teaching thing is great, dude. It's like. It is weird that I started that late. Like, you know, if I was smarter about it, I could have started pushing the teaching thing. Maybe not that initial year when I turned 18, but like maybe like year 20 or so, I could have started looking at it. But at that time, I was like, I'm just gonna play.
I mean, like you had the time and you were building good connections.
Yes,
and that's going to show now. So I don't think it's.
No, I also
yes, you were about to say.
Also, like a person doesn't want it to come across. I don't think it can come across bad, but I mean, like, it's still not that easy to just gig. I also knew that my parents were supportive, so I knew that I wasn't gonna, like, if I did bad, nothing that bad would happen to me. You know what I mean? I would just, and then also because me and the girlfriend were together for so long. After school, she was like doing her beauty thing. She still does beauty and stuff today. Okay. So we were both bringing in a bit of money.
Yes.
So it wasn't that tough. You know what I mean?
Wasn't that tight? Yeah.
Yeah, but the teaching thing has been game changing.
Yes,
definitely.
Obviously, suddenly, like let's be honest, like you, even as a session musician playing in multiple bands, you cannot. I mean, there is.
Yeah.
But you cannot really survive just from that.
Yeah.
The gigs just isn't that constant.
Exactly.
You get the winter and then things fall flat.
Yeah.
People move out of the country. People start, changing their careers.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard to keep a pocket of, let's say, 7 to 10 projects that you're kind of rotating.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep that going.
100%.
I mean, maybe for a singer-songwriter, somebody that can take his acoustic guitar or her acoustic guitar and go on tour, you can kind of survive like that, because you can play gigs where you can do a one-man show and you could earn up to $3-4 grand, for a small gig, even more if you're doing like corporates and weddings and stuff. So that's a bit more sustainable. But let's be honest, for players, it's kind of hard.
100%.
It's kind of hard. You have to you have to branch out in different stuff, lessons, recordings, whatever. So now, still talking musicians and meeting different people. You play with Gin Wizard, with Richard Pryor quite a lot. How did you meet? How did you meet him and Rob Stemmett and the Oaks? How did that? Because that's actually the first time I saw you playing was with Richard Pryor.
Okay.
At the Quarry.
Yes. You guys did like the Rolling Stones thing. I remember that. So the connection came from the band that I met after school.
Yes.
One connection from there was a Bruce Springsteen tribute. We got a keyboard player, Michael, in. He plays for Gin Wizard. Michael Wilson Trollop. Yes, and he Kevin Gibson obviously used to play with Richard Pryor for many years with Pebbleman.
That's probably one of your favorite SA drummers.
Of course, 100%, without a doubt.
Guy's just so sick.
Without a doubt.
Oh my word.
Without a doubt, yeah. So like when I remember being like working with Michael just on other things, and he's like, "Oh, I'm playing with Richard this weekend." I'm like, "Oh, it must be so nice playing with Kevin, man. You must be having such a nice time." And then Kevin's obviously, he's busy with so many things. He's doing the jazz thing and he's killing it, all of it. And then Michael was just like, "Oh, Dillon, just like Richard might message you.
By the way,
they're looking for some guys." I was like,
Kevin doesn't always have the time. Right?
Yeah, and I was like, and it's big, it's massive shoes to fill. It's like, geez, And obviously the best thing to do is you're not trying to be like anyone. I just brought my own thing. Richard's old school in the way that he wants that heaviness.
Yeah.
So I think that was the first thing that made him just happy. Is that I could lay down just something solid.
Yes.
That made him feel like there's some sort of rock energy behind him.
Yes.
And dude, that's the first big like professional thing that I've been doing. And then like you say, making the connection with Rob.
Yes. And then from there, like you've progressed quite a bit, as we were saying. Like I see that recently you started working with Anna Karstens as well. How did that happen?
That is with Werner plays for them and Gio
van Walsleven, and Giovanni Cerci.
Yes, exactly. And they just, both of them, Gio obviously got the Card and Zoid gig recently.
Right. And so he moved out of that space.
Yeah, he's still doing it. He's definitely still playing, but he's just occupied quite a bit now with Card and stuff. And then they asked me if I want to do it, and I was like, of course I want to do it.
So how did you know Werner?
I actually didn't know Werner.
You met him through this Anna Karstens gig. Because that's what I was about to say. Because he's been playing with Arno and David Watkins quite a bit.
Yes.
So what is he doing now that kind of gave you the space to?
He's doing this corporate thing with Dan Green. You know Dan Green?
Yes, I've heard the name.
They have this. I'm not sure the name of the corporate band, like what they go as, but it's Frank Freeman, who I also obviously play with.
Yes, with folk. Yeah.
Yes, and then they're busy, dude. They're doing like over 100 shows a year, and it's a lot of traveling gigs and
crazy
proper stuff. So Werner's doing that, and then I think Werner's doing the Yevels thing.
Yes,
I think. If you just think of those two alone, you
pretty much
you have a proper schedule with that.
You have a proper schedule.
And then Gio's obviously doing Crimson House, and he's doing Card and Zoid.
Yes.
And he's doing I know he also does some, I can't remember the other corporate stuff that he's doing, but he's doing some corporate stuff as well. So I think Gio put the word in for me there, but I don't know. And then when I got that gig, I spoke quite a lot to Werner just to make sure I know all the parts and all the.
Such a lacquer guy.
Yeah, he's cool. Both
he's
of them,
also been on my previous podcast called Tunes Live, which is a bit more primitive than this one.
Okay.
I actually interviewed him at a festival called Endless Days back in, I think it was 2017. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, he's
such a cool guy, dude.
Been a part of Tunes. He actually rehearsed at the first venue, which was down the road. Actually, when you come up this corner, there's a little Simonier Fisheries.
Okay.
So it's right next to that was the first Tunes venue. It was a small little place, very humble beginnings.
Cool, man.
And Werner was rehearsing there with some people back in the day.
Yeah.
He was still part of a metal band called Marching Dead.
Nice, yeah.
And stuff like that. But yeah, that's interesting how you say, like, how these pockets open up and people get involved into other things, and then you kind of get the space there. But what I was also wondering, like, how do you feel, obviously you being now involved in quite a bit of projects, so how do you feel when you can't make a cool gig because you already got another gig, and then somebody moves into your gig, you know? How has that happened to you, and how does it make you feel?
I mean, I can't think of a moment where I had to miss out on like something that's too epic that I have to like really sit down and be like, oh, I'm so upset I can't make the show. I haven't been in too many of those moments.
Okay.
I think it's like it's that thing like with, you know, if Richard asks for availability for gig, let's just say they're trying to book a show. If a core member of the band, obviously Richard will cycle through different vocalists, but if a core member can't make it, then they'll just get
another date.
They'll just get another date, and that's how it works most of the time. But then obviously you get fests
that's been saving my ass as well.
Yes.
If the core member can't make it, okay, let's just get another date.
Exactly. But for example, there's been like bike rallies that's fixed dates. I can't make it. Then for example, like with Richard, there's a gig coming up now at the Durban Golf Club that they're playing. I can't make it. They get Kevin back in there. You know, I'm stoked. I'm like, you guys get to jam with Kevin again. You guys are gonna have a great time.
Cool.
And I mean, people, it's like Kevin, of course. I'm stoked that he's gonna jam there.
He's one of the founding.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like why not? And then.
So would you say
it hasn't happened with folk, but there was a moment where I couldn't make a gig with folk, and they really didn't want to miss the gig, and then they would have gotten Werner to play. But I mean, these are all cool guys. It's not like
it's your peers.
Yeah, it's like of course, yeah.
And they're also like their careers is solidified. It's not like they're jumping onto a gig and playing you out of a gig. I would want to see the guy actually playing you out of a gig. So. And then, like, talking, if we go over a bit to gear and stuff, like, it's the overheads in being a drummer is just insanity. Skins and sticks and stuff. Like, are you endorsed? Or are you sort of not? Are you gunning for an endorsement?
I mean, I have, like, you know, Bothners has been the music shop I've been going to for a long time, so I get like a decent discount there. But I mean, it's still
dude, you should
fat ton of money.
Solidly apply for, like, that's how my Zildjian endorsements, which I now don't have currently anymore, just because of my own personal reasons about it. I applied for that, and luckily I had enough to give them. They kind of asked like ridiculous stuff like a record label, but what I did is at that time, and this is also a connection we have to speak about because we have a mutual friend, acquaintance, Ria Nivenhuis. I was doing work for him, and I put him up as my label because he's registered as a musician. He's registered, so I put him up as my label. So I actually got the Zildjian endorsement. So I think you should really just apply for that. You do it online. You get like massive discounts. So obviously that's great. You should definitely gun for that. And then Mapex, which I still have, I got through Bothners. That's pretty easy. I think you should just gun for that. Like,
I mean, I have one other friend that also tells me, I must like just go for these things. It's a weird type of dynamic where it feels almost I mean, the applications are there to be filled in, you know what I mean, and to go for it, but it feels almost like you kind of want it to be like a mutual liking in a you kind of want the company to want to work with you and you want to work with them.
I mean, there is drawbacks of being tied to a certain label or labels, but I think like where you're heading now, I think it can be beneficial. You can stop with it anyway. Like it's not in a contract. That
yes, no, 100%. I am looking for sponsorship, but I also don't want to. I mean, the brands I play, which is Tama, Meinl, Evans at the moment.
Right, so you're Tama guy.
I'm a Tama, yeah. I mean, the Tama and Meinl thing won't change.
Yeah. No, I shouldn't.
I don't think that will change. But look, Mapex has always been like a little irritating bug because I've never had any sort of a bad experience with Mapex. Every time there's a house kit is a house kit. You can have a DW kit that's a house kit. That sounds bad, but I mean, like Mapex has always been.
I'm a staunch supporter.
Okay.
I love Mapex.
Yeah. No, I must say, every single experience I've had have been amazing, and I mean their high end stuff is.
It's just out of this world.
No, it's flawless, dude.
How it sounds.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I got the Black Panther blaster.
Oof, nice man. Yeah.
It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Even though it's pretty hard rocky, but it's like really cool.
Yeah, and also their line of snare drums. I mean, it's difficult to not want to just stock them up.
It's just so insane. And then talking snare drums, like how many different snare drums do you kind of rotate?
Not a lot. I have 3 and I use one almost all the time.
Yeah, you're kind of the same like me. I have a couple, but it's the one that I use all the time. That folk gig when you guys played with Van Coke, what snare was that you used?
It's a Star Classic, a Tama Star Classic.
Is that your main one?
Birch Babinga, yes.
Okay.
It's 14. I don't know. I'm bad with depths.
No, me too. Don't worry. It's like, is it 6 or 6.5? No, I don't really know. But do you tune that snare drum differently for different applications?
I do, yes. With folk, I'm playing. You know, big fat snare drum.
Yeah.
I'm playing a big fat snare drum.
I was thinking you got that going.
Yes.
So that's your go-to for muffling the drum.
With him.
Okay.
With him, I'm not the gig that you were at Daisy. I wasn't doing it, but I played big fat snare drums on all the drums.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's actually quite a cool thing.
So you put it on the toms?
Toms every year.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a full. The whole kit is big.
That was why the toms sounded differently. Okay.
But I didn't use it at Daisy's though.
Oh, you did it.
But it was just tuned super. It was quite dead.
That toms was quite dead.
Yeah,
it made it fat.
It's just thuddy. It's just doop doop. That's all.
Yeah.
So I use big fat snare drum on the recordings that you'll hear with us. There isn't big. There's one song that has full set of big fat snare drums, but I mostly do big fat snare drums.
So you won't say it's gimmicky. You won't say it works really. The big, because they're freaking expensive pieces of plastic, man. Let's be honest. Like,
I got the set of I got a full set 14, 10, 12, 16 for like $1,000.
What?
Yeah.
No, that's insane. Because I heard people talking about like $700 a pop.
Yeah. No, I know it can be. Tom's had this ridiculous sale at one point. And I picked it up.
That makes sense.
But I'm thinking of letting go of I played on my snare drum. There's a new song we tried at Daisy where I do like the 16th note snare build thing.
Yeah.
And not all the notes were coming through. It was like a weird thing. I think if you play constantly quiet on it, it's almost like it hops a little bit.
Okay.
And then, you know, that mic's picking up my big hits, but it was the notes that were just shy of. You know, it could could also just be my inconsistencies. But I mean, there should be. You should at least be able to hear all of them. Maybe some louder than the others, but some of them were muted. I had one guy come up to me. He's like, "Dude, what snare pattern are you playing?" I was like, "Standard 16."
So
it's like it's like all completely mixed up.
It's like, no, I didn't play that.
Yeah. It's like he was trying to latch onto a pattern, and the pattern's ever changing.
Yes.
So I might change that, but tuning snares, I never get to tune my snare nice and high, which is
you don't have that kind of work.
Yeah, when like the jazz stuff, I could definitely tune it high, but most of the jazz gigs I'm not playing on my kit.
Playing a house kit,
and most of the time, funny enough, the venues have cool snares that I like to use. So I play Blue Room about twice a month with Aldred.
Okay,
and they have a Mapex Mars kit there.
Awesome.
And the snare there is absolutely killer, dude. It's like the head is like needs to be changed and stuff, but it's the tightest snare I've ever played. It's just
nice.
It's super tight. So, but I don't ever get to tune my own snares.
Just that tabletop.
Nice. Yeah, exactly.
Like we had a gospel drummer. Well, I wouldn't really call him a gospel drummer. friend of mine, Kai Letu.
Yes.
He was here on Tuesday recording with us, and his snare, even though, like you said, the head is old, but it's just sounding so fat.
It's like you can't take it off yet. It's not. It's not
you
ready.
don't want to take that head off.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes I find that with age, like you actually get a great tone if it's before that time where you started getting like ugly overtones and stuff.
Yeah.
It's that sweet spot. Like it's almost like the aging, like the snare skin is like in his early 20s now. Like he's just so fire and so energetic, you know. And then talking stuff like this, what other jazz artists do you currently play? I mean, you mentioned Aldred and you mentioned Amon. What other jazz people you play?
I do. So with Aldred, it's cool because I get to play with some other guys like Ramon.
Yes.
I've only played with Ramon twice. But it's cool that I can make, he's such a good muser. It's just great to be able to make music with him.
Yeah.
And then I have regular gigs every Monday and every Wednesday.
You see, that's where you get your week gigs.
Yes.
If you're in that jazz scene, you get the week gigs and you play the rock and roll on the weekend.
Exactly, yeah. But dude, it's really worked out. The teaching job came at the same time these two regular gigs came.
Okay.
So being a muser that was like scrabbling around for gigs to play on the weekend to make some money, to all of a sudden having like a permanent teaching job and permanent gigs, I was almost thrown off guard. I was like, geez, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? What is this? This is so cool. But that gig I play, we do jazz stuff, we do swing stuff, we do bossa stuff, we do some samba stuff, but we're also doing like, some Ed Sheeran stuff. It's not like a strict jazz gig.
Yes, okay.
We do like
so almost like
Sweet Caroline and stuff as well, but then we're playing like proper samba stuff. We'll play proper,
So almost a bit of PMJ in there, like postmodern jukebox kind of vibes. Yeah.
But it's like it's played at a super quiet, like low volume.
Yes.
Really low volume and like
And that's cool because that gives you the experience of like. Once again, I think that separates the men from the boys is if you can play chops at a low level. If you don't have to be loud to be able to do your stuff.
It's a constant struggle though, I'm not gonna lie. Like I've definitely,
for me as well, yeah.
This gig has improved it a lot, but like I play about 60% of the stuff I can, maybe less.
Because of the low level of dynamic.
There's some things sometimes I try to go for them, like not today.
It's too big.
It's just too big, And also like the amount of energy I actually realize that I used to play that thing normally, I can't do it.
You have to. It's full throttle or nothing.
Yeah. So I mean, I could definitely practice to get it there.
Yes.
But also, like I practice on an E-kit. I have a Roland kit at home.
So is that like at the moment your current like home studio setup?
It's been like that since the beginning of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I miss most about the pedal spot, dude. I could like now
just bash it away.
Looking back at it, I'm like, oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
But the E-kit has been great, but also like it feels weird to work on my soft playing on a E-kit. Sometimes I think about putting the volume super loud so that I have to play quiet. It could be a cool tool, but I haven't do it. Whenever I'm behind it, I'm like, nah, let me just play loud. And
dynamics is difficult on E-kits, and especially so if you don't have like 120 K's worth of kit.
Yes.
Those kits, you can mute the cymbals and you can do crazy things, and it's a lot more like a proper drum kit.
Yeah.
But definitely not if you like, what did you say you're playing, a Roland?
TD30.
Okay, well that's pretty up there.
That's how. But it's still, it's like when you sit in there, it's like, and you're playing, you still don't want to play soft on a. I don't know.
No.
It's like I could take my acoustic kit and be like, okay, I'm gonna play some quiet stuff.
Yes.
Tune the toms up high, play some jazz stuff, work on my dynamics, or put like muffle in, put big fat snare drum and not rim shot, and work on that stuff. But it's almost fun that way.
I mean,
on the E-kit, it's like I don't know. It's actually just a lack of discipline. I should just do it.
I mean, it's not a direct sound. That's the thing with acoustic versus digital is that you getting that direct attack from the source.
Exactly.
Where with the E-kit, it's going through a brain and now it's here. Obviously you could see that E-kits doesn't make me very excited, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And then another thing I thought of, like, let me just do some maths here quickly. So now 2025, COVID was around 2020, 2021. So you must have been like just quote unquote out of school by the time of COVID. Like, how did that hit you? What did you do in COVID? Like starting a music career, jeez.
Yeah.
Could this be a break?
2019, what was that year? So I had the whole 2019.
That was a speakeasy year.
Yes. The band built like cool momentum. We had all these venues that we were playing constantly at. We never even got to the stage where we could like release original music and really try to make it as like a band, have like our own thing going. Then COVID came. Funny enough, where a lot of people started practicing a lot was during COVID. I didn't practice that much during COVID because now everyone's home. So it's like I can't make a noise anymore. Normally everyone leaves me alone at home and I just have the whole house. But now like the mom's home, the dad's home, I can't be smashing for 4 hours, you know what I mean?
I was pulling crazy maneuvers. I had like towels over. Well, I had a kick snare hi-hat set up. I didn't pull in any cymbals or toms because they're just too loud.
Yeah.
And I was putting towels over my snare drum. The hi-hat I didn't muffle. I just played it softly, and I was putting socks over my beater. And that sort of just allowed me to play like a acoustic setup in my room.
Yeah,
it was
making a plan, man. You're making a plan to get the work done. It's great.
It was fun times.
Yeah. So I mean, COVID for me was basically that. I had a gig at Key 4.
Cool.
That I would play with like the Greg who runs the band there, Saber.
Okay.
And I would play there probably like this was, I don't know exactly how deep in COVID, but this was more or less at the end of COVID.
Yes.
I would make 350 rand every gig playing.
So dude,
playing
like,
with Key 4.
Just thinking, you were so lucky that you hit. We were speaking of the significance of that year.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm even more amazed that you pull that maneuver of not finishing matric. Imagine you finish matric in 2019.
Yeah.
You want to press play now. And here's it 2020. Here comes the pandemic.
I actually haven't thought of that. I actually haven't thought of that. Dude, I actually haven't thought of that.
That could have like had a lasting impact on your like founding sort of career.
I actually didn't think of that.
That's crazy.
Because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have met that band that I met at that. It's like it just shows you the importance of timing.
Yes, that's so insane. And then 2020, like, what else did you keep busy with? Now you're kind of seeing this dream that you just started. You're just seeing like, oh my word. I mean, for us it was bad. I was in my early 30s. It was freaking bad enough for us, but I can just imagine being 19 years old and you're like, oh, the world's just begun. Like, oh, here's a pandemic. What now? Like, what did you do in that year?
Dude, I think I got practicing when I could, and that year I think mostly what was happening is me and my wife were sorting out some sort of a moving situation there. I think we would stay, I think, a few days at my house, a few days at her house, or with her parents, my parents. And I, to be honest with you, I don't know. I think you just
can't really remember.
No, I think I was just practicing and like
hanging in there, waiting for the fog to lift.
I can't actually think of, because the gigs. I mean, for that first few months of lockdown, there weren't any.
There was
gigs.
nothing.
There was nothing. And then I had like once a week I could get out there, make 350 is obviously not a lot of money, but it was like I was just like a gig. Run for the hills.
It's an opportunity to play.
To play a little bit.
That's what we all did when that lifted. Like I was suddenly found myself doing gigs and making effort for gigs, which was crazy.
Yes.
Like you just went for it, whatever you could get.
Yeah. Did you manage to pick up anything in COVID? What did you? Some people have discovered new things about themselves in COVID. They're like,
well, what? Yes, I did actually.
Okay.
It's not a new thing, but I started reliving the guitar.
Nice.
So I started like classical guitar when I was really young, like 10, 11. It sounds like I'm a really good guitarist, but I'm not. I can just strum and I know a couple of chords. But what I did is for years I neglected that. And because of drumming and bands and stuff, and then in COVID, I was like, I just have so much more time now. So what to do with all my time? I can't practice drums the whole time.
Exactly.
And then I started picking up the guitar and I started writing songs. And then I did something which I never have done, is I actually started writing and recording songs, and I actually released them.
Nice.
And I'm now at a point where I'm actually working on my second release.
That's amazing, dude.
That
That's
was
cool.
something that came for me, which I don't think would have come otherwise if it wasn't for COVID.
For COVID, yeah.
I don't think I would have found the time to suddenly, let's sit down and write some songs.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that? There's no real money. Well, not initially. There's no real money in doing that. That's a long way to the top if you want to write music.
Exactly.
So that definitely
And now obviously it's something that you started, so now you're still doing it.
I'm still doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And last night I quickly went and sat down like a half an hour before bedtime and just played a bit and worked on some new stuff. And so the guitar has since been kind of something that I haven't left it again. It's now a part of my life, which obviously is cool for interdisciplinary progress and stuff.
Yes.
It's cool to play another instrument and kind of put that stuff into your drumming, which is whatever your main instrument is. Yeah.
I'm thinking about picking up the guitar.
You haven't played any other?
I mean, like I said, my dad taught me at that age, and I never really forgot those basic little stuff he taught me.
Yes.
You know, like you would just explain me like the notes of the fretboard, like basically just on like the top string, just like basic knowledge I had from it.
Yes.
And now I can play some bar chords or whatever. But exactly like what you were saying, if every time I think about putting in a lot of time with guitar, I'm like, geez, but is it going to be worth it now?
Yeah.
Where if I had a COVID year to do it, I would probably spend a lot of time on it now, which is exactly.
It's hard to find the time in your day-to-day activities and balancing your personal life and all of that.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Dude, it's so hard that I keep on failing at it. Honestly, it's like that. That's how hard it is. It's like a person can get, like now with the teaching, there's fitness, there's practice. I have stopped a little bit with the practice. Last year when I got the teaching job, I almost never practiced one, like, when I say never practice, like I would learn my songs for bands.
Yes, but you're not doing personal development.
Yes, I'm not like, I want to learn this animal song or whatever and then spin and learn it.
Yes.
So, and that went on for about a year almost no self-practice. And it was just needed at that time. Now I'm getting back into it again, but yeah.
And also going kind of back to talking projects and stuff, I follow you quite closely on Facebook, so I see a lot of the things you're busy with. I see recently you got a recording gig with Yivels. How did that come about?
That was cool. That was with Frank with Folk. We did this tour. We did a little tour we did Potchefstroom, Pretoria and Joburg.
Yes.
And then we had Fred and Hunter they did like their own little show. They were like an opening act and then
also on the bill.
Yes, they would be the opening act because it was just them two. It was acoustic. It was just like ease the people in, and they did a great job there. And then coming back, Fred hit me up. They want to do.
They're obviously seeing you playing there. And this guy's got a sound we're looking for.
Yeah, they liked it enough to want to book me. And I was stoked. I was like, I so badly want to get more into the recording thing anyway.
Yes.
And now opportunity at Sunset, and it's like, it's cool.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
So you worked with Jurgen.
Yes. I worked with him a little bit before. We recorded 2 songs with Folk there.
Okay, cool.
And then, but yeah, it was cool to get to.
So are you playing on most of the Folk recordings?
Yeah, so Sheldon did like Heroina.
Yes.
And he did
the first stuff.
Yeah, those first initial stuff, but everything from My Hart is a Train.
Yes.
Yeah, all of that's been me. And we have an album coming.
All right, so you're working on stuff now.
Yeah, I was in studio not too long ago, a couple of months ago, and we did a whole album.
Awesome.
Yeah, and super stoked, dude. Oh, can't wait for that. That project is something like, it's one of those projects like while I'm playing, while we're on stage we're playing, I'm like, this is so cool.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
You guys looked cool at the show. Like all 3 of you guys just looked so relaxed.
Cool, man.
And sounded relaxed.
Yeah.
And that thing translates. Like, it's cool to see people playing a hell of a killer show.
Yeah.
And they're not like really straining themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, man. We're doing this.
Yeah.
And that must be super fun because the grooves are pretty open.
Yes.
Like And then how fun is that chorus of My Heart is a Train?
Dude,
like,
it's crazy.
Just like that. It's I don't know if offset is the word, but the way the guitar riff is written makes that you sound like you're playing double time.
Okay.
But you're not actually necessarily playing double time, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's so clever how the patterns goes over each other. I'm very badly explaining it now.
No.
But I think you kind of get what I'm trying to say. And that just gets me every time. I'm like, shit, this is so groovy.
The thing is also, like Frank is seriously good. Like, I'm super inspired by him. Like,
yes, he's a great guitarist.
Dude,
oh my word.
Like, his guitar playing is inspiring, and sometimes when we have like a little band meeting, he'll just show us some rough ideas that he's working on. These are just little, it's not stuff he spent hours on. It's just little ideas. I'm like, this is so. For me, I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so Frank's also old school in terms of like. My Heart is a Train. We recorded My Heart is a Train. My Heart is a Train, and then we recorded, what was the other one?
Trying to think now as well.
Let me. There was that other one that. Anyway, it'll count. There was 2 songs we recorded, and like Frank only let us have maybe 2 rehearsals on the song. And
That's clever.
When I say 2 rehearsals, I mean like the songs weren't even sent to us before those rehearsals. It was like, here's the songs, and then you work on it that way. So when you go into studio, and
you haven't been overthinking your parts.
No,
that's actually pretty freaking smart.
Cool, yeah. It's cool, but it's also that thing where like later on you're like, now that the song's actually grown a little bit, I'm like, I wish I did this on the recording.
And I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Yes.
I've been thrown in situations like that with Rico Latti. Like, he loves to do spur of the moment things. He literally made us record an album, and he's pushing for us to not rehearse and to not have parts figured out. I'm like, dude, you crazy.
Yeah.
What is this about?
Yeah.
It's so fun.
It is cool. It's a bit more, sometimes like as artists we want everything to be like perfect. We want it to be epic and stuff.
Yes, that's
if it's out of your control, he's kind of pushing for it to be that way. I was like, cool. And he's happy about it every time, you know what I mean? I remember you asked me for some notes for 1 or 2 songs, and I'm like, can't we just fix this little thing? He's like, I think it sounds cool. It's like, it's like, so it's cool to work on those type of things.
And it sort of pushes and shifts your perspective, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is like the most inspiring thing, is like, Werner van Walsleman actually said it on my podcast, is that his main inspiration is from the bass player, the guitarist, from the other disciplines, so you get so inspired by seeing other artists work and by having a different take on what you did. Like you said, Frank said, no, this is cool. You were like, no, let's super self-critical, let's fix it, let's get it right. Like, he's like, no, this is actually cool, man.
Yeah.
And then talking SA drummers, like, what other SA drummers do you look up a lot to? Well, let's say SA and international, but I'm being super like patriotical about the SA music scene. I'm always interested to hear about the local stuff.
Yes. I mean, Kevin would be right on top there for me. Yeah, for sure. Kevin is on top, and then the other guys. There's a young guy. When I say young, he's my age. Is a guy called Justin Arends. His name on Instagram is Justy Drums.
Okay.
He's playing for like Afrikaans. He's playing for Rooksein. Do you know a band called Rooksein?
No, I haven't heard of it.
He's playing for them, and he has some cool stuff. There's this bass player called Angelo Roman.
Yes.
He's Rixie Roman, maybe.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah, so it's Rixie's son.
Okay.
And they're like just the meanest combo we have here. I mean, they're young and they're so ahead of it. They're amazing. So definitely check out them. I feel I'm so happy that I can actually, like, whoever actually checks him out, I'm glad I could give him a shout out because he deserves a shout out. He's so good. Nice. Justin Arends. And then my favorite drummer here in Cape Town is Damien Kameneth.
Okay.
He plays with. I mean, these are mostly jazz guys.
Yes.
Mostly jazz guys. Damien Kameneth, and then Legan Starchild is a guy I absolutely love. He has the gig with Leader. He has a few big gigs. He did the Idols thing for a while.
Wow.
But yeah, Legan Starch out. But he's a solid name in the industry already. I was at Jazz Fest and I went to go watch Leader play, and I was like, come on, Legan, leave some for the rest of us. He's just like smashing the gig. There's Damien, and then there's some younger guys that I just think people must look out for. But mostly in the jazz scene, as I say, there's a guy called Kino Carlso. He's playing with Plumies and Kujenga.
I've seen his name, because I also follow Sean Johannes.
Yes.
Okay.
Kino, Damien. There's a guy called Ezra Smits.
There's so many good drummers around which I haven't even heard of.
Dude, you must go to. I mean, if you want to see all these guys, just go to Open Wine on a Sunday.
Okay.
The Open Wines this is jam. They have this jam. Every Sunday they have a jam band on Sunday. I said Sundays like 5 times. At Open Wine, I know almost no street names in town. I'm like,
but it's in town. Okay.
But it's in town. As soon as you enter, if you get off the N1, as soon as you enter, you turn left. It's right there.
Okay.
Like
Google will tell us.
That's as much as I can explain. It's a small little spot. They kind of have the whole outside. It's not big, but dude, the vibe there is the biggest vibe I've seen with a jam session. Awesome. The people are crowding that place, like in the street. Awesome. So Damien's like kind of the house drummer there.
Yeah.
And then all these guys come through, and they all there's a guy called Gilmore van Rooyen. I think the surname's van Rooyen. These guys are so difficult to remember because you remember Instagram names more than you remember the actual the actual names.
That's true.
Damien, Kino, Ezra, Gilmore van Rooyen, and then but the established names I would say is definitely Kevin. And there's a guy called Jason Moser.
Yes.
Jason Moser. I think the recognizable one he's doing is with Rihanna now.
Yes.
Leroy Sauls. I don't even know Leroy.
Yes, I know that name.
Man, I'm he plays with Rian Bernardi.
Okay.
He used to play with Yuma Sekela.
Wow.
Which is I think I spoke to him. I think for like a decent amount of years, 12 years or something like that. I think. I might be that might be some misinformation, but like the biggest vibe of a drummer. He just he plays with this massive smile, and I can never relate to that. I'm always so serious, but he's playing with this big smile, but like killing it, amazing feel. And
then
who else is there? I think those are the names that immediately come to mind.
Pops up, And then going back to recording, you mentioned you've been around a couple of studios, Sunset and so forth. Yes. Where else have you been recording, and with who? Like any other cool recording projects that you've been doing?
Yes, I think there's only one I can mention. There's a guy called Josh Perry.
Yeah.
He that's where we record all the folk stuff.
Right.
And what I respect mostly about him is when we did the stuff with Frank goes to him because he understands
They've
Frank's
got a
sound.
Musician-producer relationship,
yes.
sort of,
But I mean, I think the fact that he understands folk sound is one thing, but I think he's just the type of producer that wants to understand the band sound.
Yes.
Which is important, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Frank doesn't have to say as much for Josh to get his vibe, you know? And also, he knows what he's doing, definitely knows what he's doing.
Where's his spot?
His spot, at the moment, I think it's in Woodstock.
Okay.
Somewhere.
And do you know the name of the studio?
What it was called, let me get it, let me not miss the opportunity to actually get it now. But he also plays in a band called the Honeymoon Band.
Oh, yeah.
You know Honeymoon?
Yeah.
Cool. And like he was at a show the other day. He came to a show and he was like he was like finally, he understands the sound of the band. He's working on the album and stuff with us, but he's never seen us live. And he comes to watch us live and he's like so excited to like actually hear what we actually sound like. You know what I mean? Like amplified and all mic'd up. And then to see people's reaction. So it's just cool, I don't know if it's like that with every band, but he reminds me of someone that's quite invested in the projects which is amazing.
It's quite cool that you're mentioning that because it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting the effect that has with when a producer come to actually check you live,
Yes.
and how you can translate that in the studio.
Yes.
As with, I feel that's a lack, is that most bands, they just come into studio and they've maybe sent their demos to the studio, but the studio engineer, which in South Africa most of the times is the producer as well, unless you have quite a serious budget or some friend connections that
Yes.
you can pull, hasn't seen the band live.
Yeah.
And you don't know, like, if you haven't seen a band live, you don't really know what they're about.
Yes.
Like, you have to get into that live energy and space.
100%. Of course. I do agree. That is definitely something that's like, let me quickly see here, dude, if I can find this.
It's cool. If you don't, I'm just interested to know, about studios around. But
at one stage the studio was called Studio 306 or 307.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yes, I think that.
And then, if we sort of, while you're looking, and it's really fine if you don't find it, it's just a point of interest. We can maybe add it in later.
Drop the link later. Yeah, cool.
Like some of your worst experiences on stage, like obviously being a drummer, so many parts that like can go wrong, so many moving parts, so many instruments around you, the leg of a stand that failed, whatever. Like, have you had like a moment that is just like, this is just so bad? Like maybe the kick drum fell off the riser, stuff like that.
I think the worst gig I had, I just remember being on stage and like counting the seconds for this gig just to be done.
Yes.
We played a festival. I think it was Marilifi Makiti, which is in like Strandfontein, and we had the last slot. We had the midnight slot.
Ooh.
And I was like, you're there the whole day, you're watching all these acts, and you're like, okay, your show has to be epic. We have to end it off on a high. And the show that I rehearsed
wasn't the show that was played.
It was mostly the show that we played.
Yeah.
Let's just say there was 10 songs. There was about 2 songs that the artist never told me. Or not. This wasn't purposefully. The artist would send me a full show length file, and some of the stuff we would do were medleys of like 5 songs, and I maybe prepared 4, and I never knew that the last one's added. Oof. And there was about 3 or 4 moments in the show where that happened, where I rehearsed the show file, the recent one, and I thought it would be the same, and it wasn't the same. And it was just like hearing, look, the show's done proper. It's working with artists. It's such a pleasure working with the guy.
Yes.
It was just a bit of a miscommunication for this specific show, and we played, and it was as this vocal cues are telling me, bricking the wall next or whatever they're saying. I'm like, bricking the wall next? I didn't,
We didn't prepare. How are they playing it?
Exactly. And my heart, just that feeling was horrible. And then at one stage I had my in-ear pack was
disconnecting.
Was hooked onto my back pocket.
Yeah.
And I was playing with, I don't know if it was too much energy, I was hopping around too much, and it came out. On top of all of that, it came out, I couldn't hear anything. We're playing with heavy tracks. I mean, it's a 3-piece playing like Afrikaans music,
Yeah.
And I was like, it was such a, I mean, not the worst type of moment to remember from a show. I never had too many bad ones, but that one, I just remember being like,
because I can relate to that in-ear thing, because I had at Cafe Rue before where my connection wasn't solid.
Yes.
And it was dipping in and out of my ears.
Yeah.
And that's even worse actually than losing total monitoring, because now I'm in, now I'm out, now where am I? Like I'm in between things. Like kind of just go dead. Like,
was it with track and stuff as well?
Luckily not.
Okay.
Luckily, like with tracks, whoa.
Yeah, dude, this one was with tracks. I kind of fell out and I missed the click. The band's turning around, looking at me. I'm like, I don't know, and then I had to just stop it.
I'm having the worst day here.
Yeah, it was so bad.
And did you get a lot of flack for that, or the artist understanding of it?
Once I explained to them that the pack, they were fine with it, and we spoke through the set list thing. It was just look. There's also definitely there's a balance between the artist obviously has to let you know what's happening for a show. But there is definitely some
room for
me making sure about certain things. So definitely a bit of both there. But yeah, I just remember that show. I was
it's very humble of you to look at it that way.
Look, I am still leaning more towards still the artists. It's definitely more on the artist, you know what I mean?
Definitely. And then if I go the other way, best experience on stage, maybe not best, but just like best / highlight for your career. What comes to mind? Like one of your most insane festivals that you played with the biggest crowd, the best energy.
I see.
Maybe your best performance, anything like that really comes to mind. Or even if it's just one of your favorite gigs.
Yes.
Like, you know.
I would say that this gig that you were at Daisy Jones.
Oh, the folk one.
I think it felt epic. I've never played a Daisy Jones gig packed standing.
So full.
Standing. I've played packed but with seated, you know, it's a big difference. And you know, playing a show for Vanco Cartel's
opening
big, you know, and then it's with a project that I'm
invested
this excited about as well, you know. And so that was a recent one that's been epic. The biggest show that I've played was I did this country bakgat opskop thing that they have at Grand Arena.
Oh yeah.
So you're part of a backing band and you're playing with like, you know, playing Ray Dillon and you're playing with there's a whole bunch of bands. It's like I dig a backing band thing. I love it because you get to work with all these artists without having to prepare a whole show for just them. Each artist will do 3 or 4 songs. So it was like Tommy Dowell and it was you know, some new guys like Dodo, and then I can't even remember, Terran Lamb was there, Ilandre, like a few of these guys. But I think the main thing was just getting to work a little bit with all of these artists. But the main thing is just playing in the arena. It was super cool to play in the arena. It wasn't packed out. It wasn't like 5K.
Still, it's an arena gig, man.
It's still just while playing, looking up, and you're like, oh, this is cool, you know.
What?
So that was probably like the biggest one.
One of the highlights, yeah. Have you played abroad yet?
No.
Not really.
No.
That's going to come soon.
Mark
my words.
I'd like it.
It's going to come really soon. Have you played out of the country?
I have, yeah. I've done, like with Frank, we've done that tour. And
where have you played? Namibia or Botswana?
Well, actually no. I missed the question there. No,
not out of the province.
Sorry, I missed the question there. We were gonna do, we were almost gonna do Strab twice.
But that's basically like playing in South Africa.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've done Strab like 3 times, and
how was it? Cool.
It's amazing. Man.
Is it?
It is really like. All the younger musicians that I see who played there, you could really see that sheer happiness to be able to play at a festival like Strab. They're all raving about it on Facebook. And I mean, at that time when I did it, I was in my early 30s, so it was a cool time. I was still like quite young and still it was super excitable. It's just so awesome. Like you're definitely going to enjoy that on so many levels, and also you get to mingle with a lot of Gauteng musicians, which us people from the Western Cape don't really get to.
Exactly.
Not even if you tour, because you tour with only one band. Like there at Strab, you got so many Gauteng musicians in the same sort of. And the cool thing about Strab is that it's so kind of hippie, quote unquote hippie, where people do spur of the moment collaborations. They talk to each other. People are very. They're on a holiday kind of vibe when you go there, so it's very chilled and laid back like that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. I would like to do it. It feels like it's something we have to tick off and just do it once.
Yeah, no, I was just joking. I was just having fun with it not being out of the country.
No, I know.
Because I like to think of it being out of the country because I haven't played much, you know, out of the country. So that's what I'm saying.
No, but I haven't had the pleasure. I'm just, to be honest with you, I mean, most of my gigs have been here, and then any gig that I have to travel kind of far for feels like out there because I'm just so used to playing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would like to get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Also, you know, it always depends. These opportunities always depend with who. Like playing that country gig was epic, but I still would rather do the gig that I did the other with Frank. There's just certain projects just hit home.
What you like?
Yeah.
So that's
also the jazz thing for me is because I don't come from that world and I'm trying to get into it.
Yes.
When I get to play any jazz gig, it feels like such a big deal to me. Sometimes I feel like even while I'm playing it, I'm like, the cool thing about jazz, let me tell you this also, the 3 moments that I was speaking to you about, the Brandon that started at the Mike Portnoy, that was a big thing.
Yes, the Uberholzer guy.
Yes. Remember, the first Brandon was a different Brandon.
Yes.
The Brandon Oberholzer was the guy most in the
right. Okay, so you had the first Brandon.
Yes. The first Brandon was just the biggest moment in terms of excitement, and then I had the Mike Portnoy thing. Then I went to go watch Albert Frost once at the Boer,
which you also now recently played with. Richard Pryor.
Yes.
That's freaking amazing. Like, I remember the first time I was on stage with Albert, I'm like, man.
Yeah, dude.
Played with one of the greats.
Exactly.
And also, when I recorded a track with him, I was like,
cool.
I'm there on that track now forever.
Man. What track did you get to do with Albert?
It was actually for an album of Rian Ivanez. We released something called Bleeding Moon in 2018, and Albert was one of the guest guitarists on one of the tracks.
Cool, you must send that to me.
Oh, definitely.
Please, I would like to hear that. Because for me, that moment, even because it happened this past weekend, I was like, when he was on stage, I was like, this is such a big moment for me to get to play with him.
He's just also such a cool human being.
Yeah, man, it's very cool.
Laid back, cool guy.
And also because of this moment, I watched him, Skulky Bear, and Jono. And Jono, this was probably my most recent moment that changed a lot for me.
Yes.
Because when I watch guys playing at that sort of improvised, they
dexterity level.
Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, okay. With the bands I was used to watching before, then I haven't seen anything like this. I've never seen a drummer play like Jono. Jono is definitely a guy I should have also mentioned when you asked me about local guys. I mean, he's one of my tops, definitely. Most musical drummer, for sure. Yeah, he's musical. And he like when I saw the way he was playing, I could see the jazz influence.
Yes.
And that took me down the whole world of playing jazz. That moment, I asked Jono if I could have lessons, some jazz drum lessons. Back then, he was kind enough to just allow me to. He would just share some tips with me anyway.
Cool. So you did actually have some one-on-ones with him.
Yeah, awesome. I met up at Eddie Creel.
Yes. You used to play for Bryn.
Yes. So he worked. I don't know if he's still working there, but he worked at a hangar in like past Melkbos Strand side.
Okay.
And then me and him would shed sometimes together, and then I would ask Jono if we could meet up and he could help me with some things. Because back then I was like, jazz was like, I didn't understand almost anything about it. I didn't even know what I was listening to. I was like, where do I even start? And Jono was kind enough to help me. And then from there till my very first jazz gig was about 2.5 years. That was just 2.5 years of me making sure I can play the stuff.
Yes.
So I never gigged for 2.5 years playing jazz. And just making sure I understood the language a little bit.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
You did it pretty quickly.
And then, so for me, I sorry for swaying off a little bit now, but that jazz still feels like such a big moment when I get to play a jazz gig, because it took me, after being in the rock scene, it's like a gig comes up, you rehearse and you can go play it, and then having to feel like a complete beginner again and then work your way up to get a gig, it's like it feels weird, you know what I mean?
It's humbling.
It's like you've been through it already.
Yes.
It's just in a different scene.
And
so
it's
it still
necessary.
feels,
it's very necessary.
So jazz gigs still feel like that for me. It's like, okay, this is what I've been wanting to do, and now I'm doing it. So that's
awesome.
it. Yeah.
Any last thoughts you have to share before we say goodbye? It's been a great podcast subject.
Thank you, dude.
Really,
I appreciate it. Well, I do want to say thank you for having me on. This is my first time doing something like this.
Great.
I was saying now before this, is like, when you watch other people do podcasts and interviews, you always kind of answer it yourself first.
Yeah.
They ask a question, you're like, what did I say,
Yeah.
So I genuinely do appreciate the opportunity, and it's cool. I mean, me and you haven't even really...
We haven't really connected. This is the first time we're going to have a chat. So
now it's cool that we can... It's at this, this type of situation. So
that's what Thanks, man.
Cool, man.
It's such a pleasure having you. That's what I love about this podcast, is that I kind of want to hang with this Dillon guy, but how do I do it? Get him over for a podcast. Okay, now we can hang.
It's a reason to get someone to your spot.
And it's just so cool. Like, it's such a cool two-way street, in the sense of, like, I get to extend my sort of whatever, tune studio, whatever, I get to extend to your fan base.
Yes.
And you can get to extend your drumming capabilities.
Yes.
Now, people that don't know you from my side, they're like,
100%.
oh, but who is this cat? Let's go check him out.
100%.
And that's what I love about stuff like that.
Yes.
Is we're building it together.
100%.
Yeah, but thanks, Dillon.
Cool, man.
It's been great. And people, I just want to say, just check out for Dillon's work in the future. It's going to be a lasting drummer in the scene, and you'll see a lot more of him. Thanks, Dillon.
Amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Lekker, man.
Cool.